Yes, Ken. Last year, you at this session, you used the term massively disappointed with the playoffs. How would you describe uh, this year, and what would your message be to the fans right now?
Obviously disappointed. I think anytime you don't win the Stanley Cup in this industry, you're disappointed or not. I was proud of our guys. I think there was a lot of positive steps made this year. Terry, you know, we got off to a slow start. We were 3-6. I think since February. I think since February the 1st, we had the fourth best winning percentage in the National Hockey League. We tied Washington for the best road record in the National Hockey League. And then we got in the playoffs. Obviously, we had high expectations, and I think I reflect back on my time in Detroit, and before we won our first Stanley Cup, how many massive disappointments we had before we were able to finally get it done. And our guys gave everything they had in the series. We did everything we could over 56 games too. We played our way into the playoffs. We finished second. We knew we were meeting a real good opponent. 3 of the games went into overtime. So very disappointed, but very proud of our guys for, you think about game 3, losing a 4-1 lead with 8 minutes to go, going into overtime, and they bounced back the next night and played another good road game and got the game to triple overtime. So very disappointed that we weren't able to go longer. We had great expectations based upon our regular season, but I'm also feeling that we made very good strides this season and things that we can build upon going forward.
Now your salary cap is going to open up. Do you figure you learned enough in a 4 playoff game series to be able to make most of the moves that I assume, will now be able to make?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have lots of cap space, but have lots of players to sign. So it's not like we've got a whole bunch of cap space and we've got that to sign 3 players. There's a large part of our team, especially up front. Their contracts are up, so they've got to either be re-signed or we use that cap space and go to market. So I'm going through the process now. It's probably be a week here of exit interviews with our players. Sometime in early to mid-June, we'll have pro scout meetings. I'll get our pro scout people together, either together, or we'll do it virtually. I talked for a bit yesterday with Dave Tippett. I'll give him a week to 10 days to kind of get the emotion out of what just happened here over the last week. Get Dave's thoughts he'll talk to his coaching staff, and then starting probably mid-June-ish, I'll start to work the phones and talk to agents of players on our team, and maybe before that on a couple of players, and then obviously talk to other managers in the league and work our way through towards the middle of July, when we've got to make decisions to build the team. And I think also part of the evolution of a team, and that was my message yesterday in the group, and also individually, is you need people that are on your roster to take a little bit of a step, whether it's younger players or older players. Part of our growth has to be internal. It just can't be all, what are we doing on free agency and how are we going to go out and make this massive noise on free agency. The good programs, the good teams in this league do a lot of what they do from within, the drafting and the developing, and then you go out and you find the finishing pieces through free agency or through trades.
Jason Gregor, TSN 1260.
Dave, when you look at it, seems from an outsider perspective, Yeah, not Dave. Ken. Sorry, I was thinking.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, maybe you should grow a stash. Then I can tell you apart. But your depth scoring 5-on-5. That's a pretty big weakness. Whether it's some top six wingers to produce, and then your bottom guys. Is that your main priority when you look at this offseason?
Yeah, I probably would say so. I would probably be in agreement with you. Now, again, some of that is going to, obviously, we brought up Ryan McLeod, and you look Puljujarvi and Yamamoto and the young players that are, they're, what's Yamo, 22, and I met with Jesse Puljujarvi yesterday. He told me he just turned 23 the other day, and Ryan McLeod, I think, is 21. These are young players. That's part of the secondary. They're people that we're going to grow with. They're important to where the direction that we're going, and they've never been through this before. I think. The playoff series that we had, the play-in series that we had with Chicago, this was different. This was more playoff hockey. I think certainly from the way we played, it was tight checking. One game was nothing, went to overtime. Game one was 2-1. They're tight checking, no space, little space, and you got to. We got to play our way back into the same situation next year, going onto the open market, the free agent market, with whatever salary cap dollars we've got available. Certainly that's what we will explore, is to try to get a little more secondary scoring. So some of the solution is external, some of the solution is internal, and just putting ourselves in this situation over and over and over and over again, and getting more comfortable with it, and eventually having success. Again, I reflect back, I think back to when we won the Cup in Detroit in 97, there was a lot of disappointments in 93 and 94 and 95 and 96 that eventually led to us winning the Cup in 97 and 98. I'm hoping it's going to be shorter, but and how do you got to play your way into the playoffs. You got to be a playoff team every year. You got to put yourself in that situation every year, and you build and you grow on it. In the off season, you tweak your team, you make some changes, and you stick with it.
Ken, in your experience, you mentioned Puljujarvi, Yamamoto, McLeod. Is it a little bit easier for young forwards, when it comes to playoff time, even to have that experience? Whereas on your blue line, you've got young guys in Bouchard and Broberg and Samorikov and even Barron Jones. There's a lot of young guys coming with high hopes. But is it tougher to have a lot of youth on the blue line?
Well, to win the Cup, Jason, is that your question?
Yeah, like to really compete for the Cup.
I think so. I think when you watch the team celebrate with the Stanley Cup on the ice every year, there's lots of I call them graybeards, experienced players. And is there some young players? Yeah, but I don't know that it's. That's why we put players in the American Hockey League, and when you've got the Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Darnell Nurse, Mike Smith, Larson, I might be missing one or two. Obviously our expectations, our aspirations are to compete for the Stanley Cup. We've got some wonderful players, and they're just coming into the prime of their careers, and certainly I can't support them with a whole bunch of 20 and 21-year-olds. It's got to be, we want to have some 21 and 22-year-olds on our team, because they're going to grow into we believe where they're going to grow into players as part of the solution, but you also need those veteran players that have been there before, and they've been in those situations. They've got experience. So certainly on defense, the closer you get to the net, Mike Smith's 39 years of age, had a fabulous career. Was a big part of our team. You need veterans. You need veterans to go on playoff runs, but certainly you need a component of youth that brings enthusiasm, that brings speed. It's a salary cap world. They play. They're either on their entry level contract or they're on a cheaper second contract. You need a mix. You need a mix.
Jim Matheson, Post Media.
Dave or Ken. Dave, I got Dave on the mind too. You are Ken. The question: when you play the Winnipeg Jets, they're deep, 3 lines deep with people who can score goals and stuff. Was that pretty evident in the series against Winnipeg that while you had Connor and Leon and Jesse played well, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was pretty well in the last game for sure. You just don't have enough offensive depth in your top 3 lines. You can't just keep trotting out Connor and Leon and then the rest of the lines just check. You need more offensive people in the top 3 lines.
Yeah, I mean, I would, everybody's built differently. Certainly, I'm with you. We got to try to find, a little more secondary scoring. But 3 of the 4 games went to overtime. When the buzzer went after 60 minutes, it was tied. However they're built and however we're built, and they won 3 overtime games. I don't really feel we got outplayed, but Stastny got an overtime goal, Connor got an overtime goal, and Ehlers got an overtime goal. The Winnipeg Jets have been a good team now for. I'd have to look, but I mean, it's they're in the playoffs every year, and I think they were in the Final Four, the Final 8 a couple of years ago. So they're sticking with it. They're sticking with it, and they're building, they're growing their team, and I thought the series was pretty even, but we lost 4-0. So the results don't say that the series was even. So we gotta get to the off season, and we gotta try to make, like I said, we gotta make some changes. But I think, I talked to Devon Shore yesterday, and I thought he played really good in Game 4, and he talked about. Between being traded and, he's played for I think he's had 8 coaches in the last 5 years. And, he's a little, if you have some stability and hopefully I'm bringing stability, hopefully we've got some stability here, and you some of the players that we've got here are going to grow into contributing a little bit more than they've contributed in the past. I'm just using him as an example. And we talked about the young players. So you need stability. We need. I can't just keep switching players in and switching players out and switching players in and switching players out. That's not the answer either. So it's growing with some of these people that we've got here, and we bring some people in, and some of the people we brought in. Well, we won't re-sign. Some will re-sign, and we'll bring a few different people in, and we're gonna. You got to grow it. You got to grow it. I wish there was no cap and there was a hockey store, and it's like fantasy hockey where you can just go out and you can just pick players. But that's not running a team in the National Hockey League. And we're gonna have pain, and we're gonna have disappointments, and we're gonna deal with adversity, and it's gonna make us better. And the pain that we're feeling today, the pain that Oiler fans are feeling today, the pain that we're feeling today, our players are feeling today. This is what I told them. Don't know that that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Why is it a good thing? It's because the expectations are greater. We weren't just satisfied making the playoffs, and oh boy, that's nice. We played at a high enough level over the course of 56 games that we had aspirations that we were going to go on a playoff run, and it hurts today. it's disappointing. It's massively disappointing, but it's not massively disappointing because we feel we underachieved. It's massively disappointing because we had greater expectations. We felt that we, based upon our achievements in the 56-game regular season and based upon what happened last year and based upon the Chicago series, that we were prepared to do better. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing for our organization. It's not a bad thing. Those are the emotions that I felt in Detroit in 94 and 95 and 96, and then we won in 97, and then those were the emotions we felt in 98, in 99 and 2000 and 2001 or 98 we won. But whenever you don't win, you're massively disappointed, and we've got to try to, as a manager, I need a good off season. I got to try to go out and make some decisions, whether it's re-signing some of the people that we got, and then going back at it and trying to play over 82 games, that our team plays our way back into the tournament, and try again. And certainly we know we've got a great nucleus. We've got some incredible players at the top end of our lineup, and I, as the manager, working with our staff, need to try to, again, make a few little tweaks, make a few little changes. But I think we've made tremendous strides. As I've watched our team over the last 2 years, we play, we check, we work. The game when we lost 4-1 in Winnipeg in Game 3, we're sitting in the coaches' room and we were trying to figure out how many games that we had lost in the third period this year in over 56 games. I don't have an answer for you, but not a lot. We were able to take those leads. We didn't play a lot of overtime games. We didn't go to shootout. We were able to win lots of games in regulation. So, why did it happen in Game 3 in the playoffs? I don't know. We all saw the sequence of events. Everybody watched the game, but we didn't do it during the regular season. So it just tells you that the playoffs are something different. I think I sat here before the playoffs and I said, take the regular season statistics, throw them in the garbage. It's a new season, and everything starts from fresh. And we don't blow a lead many leads in the regular season. We blow a lead in the third period of a playoff game, but you got to learn from it, and we'll be better for it and more prepared. And down the road, we hope this ultimately leads to that we win the Stanley Cup. But that's what we're pursuing. But you got to get into these situations multiple times. And it's. I think I sat here on my opening press conference and said, I wanted in year one that we control our own fate on March the 1st, so that we got to win big games, and we did that, and we've gone 28th overall. We've been 12th overall last year. We're 11th overall. You got to get into the top 10 overall over 82 games, and you got to be in the playoffs every year. And you're going to have some disappointments, and you're going to have some adversity, and then you're going to tweak the team in the off season. And the players that are part of it, they're going to learn from it, and we're going to stick with it. But the pain that Oiler fans feel today means that our players played their way into that's, I guess, what to Terry Jones's question. The pain that we're feeling today, it means that our team played, we were competitive. We played at a high level. We were second in the division. Like I said, we were the fourth best record over the last 47 games. We were good on the road. I think I could give you lots of statistics. Our team goalie saves percentage is in the top 10. We played the type of hockey that I believe you need to play to be successful in the playoffs. We weren't successful this year, but it was a very close series. Winnipeg the Jets found a way to advance, and we didn't. We have to make a few moves this offseason. I have to re-sign some players, and we're going to go back to training camp. I'm happy that, away from here, I'm happy, tonight starts a little 3-game mini series in Bakersfield against Henderson. And what does it mean? It means, the job that Keith Gretzky did in building Bakersfield and creating a winning, positive environment, because McLeod was down there and he came up here, and, Dylan Holloway is not playing, but he's around that environment. And Skinner's a net a young player, and Benson, and there's some young defensemen there that one day we hope are going to grow into NHL players. So you gotta, I'm happy that we're creating a winning environment. And I've talked to Keith Gretzky the importance of building a team down at the American League level with American League veterans that are going to impact the young players of this organization down the road. That's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build a winning culture, a winning environment. And again, I believe we've made progress over the last 2 years. We need to continue down that path.
And Mike Smith, you're going to re-sign Mike Smith?
Yes. I wanted to talk. Mike's going to Kelowna. He's left. He's gone to Kelowna. I've got a place in Vernon. I told Mike we'll get together here in the next, when I get out there, probably 10 days, 2 weeks from now, and I'll get together. I'll talk to his agent. But yes, I do want to re-sign Mike Smith.
Daniel Nugent-Bowman, The Athletic.
Good morning, Ken.
Morning.
Third time's a charm. To paraphrase, you've said that, free agency, the July 1st, obviously it's a little bit different this year, is the day for players and not for managers. That's where the players make their money. So having said that, do you anticipate being active in trades? Do you want to make at least one impact trade to augment this hockey team?
Did I say that, or are you asking me if I'm...
Oh, I'm asking you if you think that it would be, that you'll have to make, or that you would want to make an impact trade to augment this hockey team.
I don't see that as a necessity, no.
Okay. And so are your young prospects, and by those I mean Holloway and McLeod and Broberg and Bouchard, are they untouchables for you?
Well, I don't know if no, but Daniel, if you look around the National Hockey League, I don't know how many of those types of players get traded. So I guess the answer would be no. They're not untouchables, but I don't see a lot of those trades happening around the National Hockey League. There's teams in the same sort of stratosphere that we're at, whether they're trying to get good or, I don't know that those types of things happen. But I guess if there was a trade there that I thought was going to, I'm not going to trade those guys for a one-year player. Just to think that it's all in on 21, 22. I guess if I'm going to acquire a player that can impact our team, for 2, 3, 4 years, would I consider it? Yeah, but then you're talking about an established player on another team. I don't know that teams trade those players. So I guess when I look around the National Hockey League, very, very rare is teams trading their very top prospects. It just doesn't happen. I can't say it won't happen, but would I be open to it if I thought that the right situation came along? Yeah, I did in Detroit one year. I traded Anders Eriksson, who was a first-round pick, and then 2 other first-round picks to acquire Chris Chelios in 1998. We were going for the three-peat. We'd won in 97 and 98, and it didn't help us in 98, but Chelios was on the team and was the second in the voting for the Norris Trophy, and we won the Stanley Cup in 2002, 4 years later. So I have done something like that in the past.
Mark Spector, Sportsnet.
Morning, Ken.
Morning.
So tell me specifically about your defenseman. You got Barry's a UFA. You ran your first-rated power play this year. You got Clefbaum ran your first-rated power play last year, and you don't know if he can play. How do you make the decision on whether to keep Barry when you don't know if Clefbaum's coming back?
Well, when Clef was here, he was here for about a month. He'd had his surgery and whenever, I'm losing track of dates. It was in February sometime. But I talked to JP Barry's agent. I talked to Clef. I'm going to touch base with the Clefbaum camp Clough and his agents around July 1st-ish, early July. Obviously, we have to make, July 5th, 17th, I think, we have to submit our protected lists for the expansion draft. So I basically what I'm saying to you, Mark, I got time. It's not like I have to decide that this week. It's going to be a process. It's going to be a process that will all really come to a conclusion on what's free agency. By July 20, the draft's 23, 24, 27, 28, 29th is free agency. So, we've got until the end of July. It's I'll walk you through what I'm going to do. Here over the next week. Yesterday I talked to about 8 or 9 or 10 of our players. I'm going to meet 6 or 7 tomorrow. The leadership group, early next week. I want to get the emotion out of it a little bit. But I also know we're getting into June, and sometimes players want to leave. So next week I'll want to sit down with Connor and Leon and Darnell and Ryan and the younger players. Tip and I met with yesterday and told them some of the things that we thought they needed to do in the off season. The older players, the veteran players. I want their input as to what they think about the team, what they think that I should do. I want their opinion, their perspective. Then I talked to, Tip is going to talk to his coaching staff. I'll talk to Tip here over the next couple of weeks. Right around June 10th to 15th, I'm going to get my pro scouts together, Archie Henderson, the pro scouts, Keith Gretzky, and we're going to go through over all the other teams. And then I'm going to start to work the phones, start to talk to the agents for our players, to the players you've just talked about, the Larsons, the Barrys, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Maybe start with some of the internal guys a little bit sooner, and then talk to NHL general managers to as Daniel Nugent-Hopkins just asked the question, to find out what other teams are thinking out there, what players. What they're looking to do with their team. Does it fit with what we're trying to do with our team? What players might be available? Off-season trades for the most part, happen at draft week. Now, this is a little bit different because there's an expansion year. Is there trades in advance, or is there just going to be trades made with Seattle and the teams like it happened when Vegas come in, or are teams going to make their own trades and without involving Seattle? Those are all the unknowns, and that are I'm only going to find out as I start to work the phones, and then I eventually work my way into, you put your expansion list in, Seattle picks a player, and then we work our way towards free agency and see what money we've got left of what players we signed internal to keep them, what money we've got left, what holes we'd like to fill, and then make some decisions on the fly, when free agency opens.
Do you think that a buyout is going to be part of your process this summer or two?
Very possible. Not 100% sure, but very possible.
Reed Wilkins, 630 Chad.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, Ken. Just one from me today. From coach, players, it seems like there's a very strong leadership core with McDavid, Draisaitl, and some of the other players you mentioned earlier. But you also touched on graybeards. So how much of a priority is it going to be to add those experienced players, who in another situation, could wear a letter to sort of, because I think we talk a lot about the team needing support scoring and support skill, but where is that a priority? How much of a priority is it to have that support, leadership, and experience for those guys? Thank you.
Well, I think it's very important. First off, when you look at the players we got here, I can't see somebody coming in from the outside and wearing a letter. Obviously, when you look at the leadership group that we've got, and there's still an unknown with Clough. Is Clough coming back or is Clough not coming back? And like I said, I'll have a little idea on July. I might not even have a real idea until unless Clef says he's absolutely a no-go and his career's over, I don't know that anyone's going to really know, doctors, Clef until September, October. So Clef is obviously a big unknown. I think when I took over the team here in May of 19, what I tried to do, I call them pros. We went out and we signed a whole bunch of pros to create depth and competition. And then some of those pros we re-signed. Some of those pros we didn't re-sign. We went out and we signed a bunch of other pros this year. Cahoon, we made the trade for Ennis. We re-signed Ennis, and so certainly I'm very. That's what we did in Detroit. I mean, that's what I did in Detroit. I tried to. You went out and you got a bunch of veteran players and experienced players, and tried to create more depth. You can't have enough depth, enough competition for jobs. You need some secondary leadership. Some of the secondary leadership, again, has to be that internal growth. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the team deeper, make the team better. So I think you've nailed it. I can't give you any names. I think that's what I've tried to do here. I believe we're heading in the right direction when I look at the contributions of the young people, the leadership group. They're coming into their prime. What's Connor 24, Leon's 25, Darnell's 26, Nuge is 27. We talked about those 21s and 22s and 23-year-olds. So I got to see who hits the open market, who's available, how much money we got to spend. Then those players got to decide what options they've got, and then I'm confident we're gonna have a good hockey team going into training camp. But I don't have a crystal ball to read the future. But that's what I want to accomplish, is what you've just laid out.
Ryan Rashog, TSN.
Ken, you guys have said all along that you want to build a program that can be competitive, not just for 1 year, but for a bunch of years, and sort of really prolong that window. And you've kept the bulk of your prospects, you've kept your first round picks, you've sort of put the futures in place, but you're not getting the results right now that you necessarily, that you would want. So do you need to be more aggressive from this point forward? Is there need to be more of a willingness to maybe rob a little from the future to support the group now for more success now? Does that balance change after this year?
Well, I just told you the age of some of these. I'd like to think that this. You got to get in the playoffs. Ryan, your question, I can go two ways with it. One way it makes sense, yeah. But I don't know that anything you can do. I look back 2 years ago when Tampa Bay had, I don't know how many points they had, and they lost in four games to Columbus. And Calgary was the Western first place team, and they won one game. And the two number one overalls won one game, combined them. It was 4-0 and 4-1. I don't know that you can guarantee. Obviously, you up the odds. When you spend futures, you up the odds. I spent the futures some futures at the deadline last year. 2 seconds for Athanasiou, a third. Obviously we lost a third in the fourth and a fifth. So I spent some assets. I spent a fourth round pick this year. We could have went to a third, but it was a fourth for Kulikov. Daniel Nugent-Hopkins asked me, and you asked me, do I want to start spending first the Brobergs and the Holloways and the first round picks to make the team better? I don't know that that's the solution. I think the solution is you got to stick with it. I think you're questioning. You're looking for instant success. You're looking just that we're going to win the Stanley Cup. doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. I look at the trials and tribulations of, I lived it in Detroit, and I watching Tampa Bay win the Stanley Cup last year, and Steve Yzerman left to go there in 2010. He was in Detroit with me, and Tampa Bay wins the Stanley Cup in 2020. It was a 10-year journey, so there are no guarantees. We've got to stick with it. We've got to stick with it. We've got to stick with it. And part of those teams that do it, it's drafting, it's developing, it's building, it's growing, and somewhere along the line, again, I said that down in New Jersey. I traded Anders Eriksson and 2 first-round picks for a 36 or 37-year-old Chris Chelios. I thought we were going for the three-peat, and we're right there. So I've done it. We're growing. You got to let us grow a little bit. Like we got to continue with it. We got to continue with it. I don't believe there's just one trade. We're one trade away, and we can start planning the parade. It doesn't happen that way. That's why the Stanley Cup is in our sport is the greatest trophy. It's a team sport. It's so hard to win. It's so hard to win, and you got to stick with it. And teams don't win 6 and 7 and 8 championships in a 15-year period. If you can win 3 in a 15-year period, you're sort of a dynasty. You're sort of a special time. So if you win 3 in 12 or 15 years, you got 12 or 13 years of massive disappointments. So I understand the frustration and the disappointment today. I'm disappointed. Our players are disappointed. Their fan base is disappointed. But again, we're disappointed because we got great players, and you think about the year that Connor had 100 points or 105 points in 56 games, and Leon won the Hart Trophy, and the development of Darnell Nurse, and the year that Mike Smith had, and we've got some kids, Jesse Puljujarvi coming back, and Yamamoto being on our team, there was great expectations. We got to continue with that. We've got to continue with that. There's so many good teams in this league, and you get into the playoffs, and you go from a 32-team league in the regular season to 16, to 8, to 4, to 2, to 1. It's hard. It's hard. So my message is, I believe we're on the right path. I believe everybody knows we've got great players. We got we got a great player, and generational player in Connor, and Leon's an unbelievable player, but obviously it's my job, my responsibility to try to support them and find other players to help make us better. I believe, and I said to you, we went from 28th overall to 12th overall to 11th overall. I've just laid out some other statistics. I believe we're on the right path. We just had a massive disappointment. Winnipeg is a real hockey team. They've been doing the same thing that I'm just laying out to you for the last 6 or 7 years. And they're sticking with it. They're sticking with it. And there's other teams that we can go through. They're sticking with it. So it's not. There's so many good teams. It isn't just one trade away and go wheel out a bunch of future and bring in some guy, and that's going to be the missing piece. And we can start to have multiple celebrations. Don't happen that way. Doesn't happen that way. I lived it.
Yep.
I lived it in Detroit. Doesn't happen that way.
And I appreciate that. And nobody's suggesting that spending like drunken sailors would be the answer to anything. And maybe, what I'll say here, whether it's fair or not, it seems you went into the playoffs this year kind of understanding that there were some holes in the lineup, but hoping you could do some damage nonetheless. And given the cap situation and everything, I think, that's understandable. But can you in future years approach the trade deadline, and not address the holes that you know are there with futures if they're there, and not equip your group to hit the playoffs, you know, as a more full group, like but being confident while there's lots in the cupboard. That's the mindset. I'm wondering if that has to change, not just blowing everything out the door for a one-year run.
Mindset from me, or mindset like?
Yeah, mindset from you, Ken. Like, keeping your powder dry, you know, for future years versus giving your team, you know, spending what you need to spend to give them what they need to go on the run so that they don't come up short in ways that we saw.
Well, Brian, I've been at it for 24 years, and, 1 year as an assistant manager, but I've been to the final 6 times, and we were fortunate enough to win 4 times, and I did lots of deals that, we were out in the first round, and I don't know if we win the Stanley Cup in 08 if you don't, make the deal for Brad Stewart for a second-round draft pick. He was just sort of the right piece to fit with Cronwall, and it was, Lidstrom and Rafalski. So, yeah, I've lived all that. What you're saying is I've lived all that. Now I'm coming here and we're starting all over again. Obviously, Detroit went, up, and then when I left, it was the last 2 years I missed the playoffs, and I charted the course for a rebuild, trading away young, for players, Tatar for a first, second, and a third round pick, and Nyquist for a second and a third round pick, and multiple players for thirds, and this sort of charted the course, and Steve Yzerman's there. So now I'm coming here, and obviously I've got Connor, and I got Leon, and I've got, a tremendous nucleus of young players. It reminds me of, 93, 94, 95 in Detroit. You got to stick with it. We had great regular seasons, losing the first round to San Jose, have 100 points, losing the first round to Toronto. Toronto has 99 points, we have 100 points. Toronto goes on, we lose out. They go to the Final Four, we're out. A year later, 2 years later, we have a 38-point bulge on San Jose. They upset us. They go on. We lose out. 97, 98, we win the Stanley Cup. I'm not going to tell you we're winning the Stanley Cup. I'm telling you, what I'm laying out for you is that we got to stick with the process. We got to stick with the plan. You got to continue to try to build your team. We got to try to play our way into the playoffs every year. If you want to win a Stanley Cup, you can't, over a 10-year period, you can't make, I guess you can make the playoffs 3 times and win the cup once or twice, but you'd like to be in the playoffs 10 out of 10 or 8 or 9 out of 10. Like you got to get into the tournament. And then when you play high, when we get to the trade deadline, I've done all that. I've traded first round picks and a bunch of futures, and I traded some players away my mindset is I've done all that. I've done all that, and I'm prepared to do it again. If the right players are available at the appropriate time. But I do think I need to build a program. And I think we're building a program. How do I define a program? I define a program as drafting and developing, and it's important that we win at the American League level. We have good veteran players at the American League level. The young players come in there, they learn to win. They come up to the NHL. That's obviously the 5 to 7 year vision. What's the vision for? Then there's a 1 year vision. There's the 6 month vision. There's the vision here between the 3 month vision to get to August the 1st and do other things that I just laid out to Mark Spector, the off season. And then let's get back to training camp, and we got to do it all over again. Over 82 games, they play the 82 games to see that 16 teams can make it in and 16 teams go home. We want to play our way into the 16, and when I get to the trade deadline, if we're playing at a high level and we're going to be in, I'm going to spend some more futures, and I'm going to try to bring in a piece here and there. I'm laying out a program to stick with it. You got to head down a path, and you can't just whip over here and whip over there. And you got to stick with it. And the teams that are successful in this league, the successful programs, They make the playoffs every year. Lots of it is internal growth, lots of it's adversity, and lots of it sticking with it. Do I make the big Daniel Nugent-Hopkins big off-season trade? Maybe. Do I do the big splash at the trade deadline? Maybe. You know, I've done the big off-season trade. It was Dominic Hasek in 2001. I've done the big splash at the trade deadline in the past in Detroit. So I've done all that. I've lived it, Ryan. I've lived it. I've done it. But we've got to grow. We've got to grow. We've got to grow. And we've got to build. We've got to build. And then you've got to do it year after year after year after year. And you hope, obviously we hope with the players that we've got here, believe with the players that we've got here, that it's going to happen. But there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. You've got to build it. You've got to grow it, and you can't just have an adversity. And I don't even know. You know, we got beat by a real team. It's not like '94 when the team that was 38 points below us upset us in Detroit. Winnipeg is an established program. They got really good players. They've got really good depth. Somebody on here just asked, talked about it's a really good hockey program. There's lots of really good hockey programs, and we're trying to grow into one of those really good hockey programs. And so at the appropriate time, will I do all those things? Yeah, but those players have to be available too. Dominic Hasek wanted out of Buffalo. Chris Chelios wanted out of Chicago at the time, and they wanted to go try to a team that could win the Stanley Cup. So it's all got to dovetail together. It's a whole bunch of things have got to happen. But in the meantime, as the manager of this team, I want to chart us on a course to building a program, to trying to build a team that can be in the playoffs every year, get in the playoffs every year, be in the tournament every year. And obviously, I know we've got with Connor and Leon and how great they are, and their determination and their passion and their commitment. We've got incredible leadership, not incredible talent, not only incredible leadership, we've got incredible talent and leadership. And I know we've got to add to it. This season we got some cap space. It looks like we're going to have some cap space. Now I'm going to explore what we can do with that cap space. But I don't want to just make noise for the sake of noise and then wake up 6 months from now and have buyer's remorse. That's going to happen. Sometimes that's going to happen anyways. I mean, not every move you make. That was one of the questions that people banged away on me when I became manager here in May of 2000. Bad contracts in Detroit, bad contracts in Detroit, bad contracts in Detroit. You're going to have bad contracts. Like you're going to try to do some things, and not everything works. Not everything works, but you got to have more things that work than don't work. So that's where I'm at. So the question that you're asking me, I've lived it. I've done it. Will I do it again? Why not? I've lived it. I've done it. But the right players got to be available at the right time when your teams. You feel that you're that piece away. We got to continue to build and grow here.
Jack Michael, 630 Chad.
Ken, I had a specific question about, maybe the unique quality of this series, although you have so much experience. Edmonton led for 60 minutes, Winnipeg 19. Does that combination, coupled with the brevity of the series, muddle a bit how you analyze the series and what you need? Because I know you've lost longer series with a better team, and a couple of occasions you've been beaten soundly by a better team, and I mean lost a longer series when you've had the better team. I'm curious how you analyze this one, and is there a series you can think of that you can compare it to?
I've been around so long. I probably lived most of everything. Game 3 in Winnipeg. I lived that in 2001 in LA. Detroit was up 3-0 with 5 minutes to go, and I know Edmonton lived it here. I think 3 in the Anaheim series. we were up 3-0 in 2001 we were up 2-1. Looked like we were going to have a 3-1 lead, and they scored 3 goals in the last 5 minutes to tie us 3-3, beat us in overtime, and scored the first 5 minutes, and they beat us in 5 and 6, and LA went on, and we were out. That's why I know playoffs are you play somebody for 10 to 12 days. Like it happens fast, and the team that I always say that not necessarily the best team wins the series. The team that's playing the best wins the series, because it happens so fast. So that's why I'm saying I believe we gotta stick with it. I believe we're making progress. I told our players yesterday that, I'm looking, they're on the ice. They're on the ice, and I'm looking from the press box level. I'm looking, and obviously then there's the fans' perspective and the coach's perspective. He's not on the ice, but and from my perspective, I told our players, you can't see it today, but I believe we're heading in the right direction. When I look at us collectively, and I look at us individually, and maybe I'm looking at some other things out there, and I feel good about Bakersfield and what's going on down there, and there's some young players down there, and again it might be 2 or 3 years down, but it's got to start somewhere. It's got to start. It starts at the draft table, and then obviously the trades, the Daniel Nugent-Hopkins, the big impact trade, and the Ryan Rishaug trade deadline. Spending a bunch of futures for that one piece, but it's an all-encompassing package. So, I thought the Winnipeg series was 2 really good teams playing, and they're in and they're out. I can't tell you why, but when I evaluate the year, I need to take. I want to get the emotion out of it. Like we just. Today's Wednesday. We lost out Monday night. It hurts. So I got to get the emotion out, and then I got to analyze. The things, the good things that we did. I got to analyze the playoffs, and I know that we've got to get a little bit better. I know that we got to get a little bit different. I know that we got to get ourselves back into the same opportunity, being in the playoffs, and try again. And believe that we're going to be a little more prepared, a little different, a little better for a different result. Because there's so many teams so close. And when you watch the games, I watched Carolina play last night against Nashville. It's 2-1, and for Nashville, Carolina scores with 7 minutes to go in the game, and Carolina wins in overtime. That's the league. It's not 5-1. It's not 6-1. That's the league. It's a bunch of overtime games. It's trying to protect a 1-goal lead in the last few minutes of the game. It's a close league, and you don't. It's too hard to be at the highest level just to differentiate yourself and be massively better than everybody else. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. You've got to find ways to win lots of games close. Winnipeg found ways to win lots of games close. We didn't. We got to put ourselves. We've got to spend an off season here, go back to training camp, and play our way back into the same opportunity. I don't know what else. I don't know what else to tell you. I guess I lived it, and I watched the league. I just watch playoff games every night. I watch playoff games from last year. I watch playoff games from this year. And you look at the scores, and you look at the series, and how close teams are, and the margin for error. It's a fine line league, and we got to get a little bit different, a little bit better, and we need some internal growth. And I know we've got a tremendous nucleus. Not only in terms of their playing ability, but also in terms of their passion, their determination, how hard they work, how much they're driven to win that ultimate goal. But it comes with lots of challenges and adversity along the way, and that's why you're going to see some team that wins this Stanley Cup. They're going to party, that whole organization parties so hard for 2 months because it's so hard to win. But I believe I'm trying to come in here, chart a path, chart a course, and it's a course of trying to build a program, and at the appropriate time, history suggests that I've made bold moves, and we need to continue to build that program, and at the appropriate time, if the right person's available at the right time, we'll make that move. But until that point in time, I think we got to continue to build and get better, get better a little bit at a time.
And you mentioned as part of building the program, you solicit opinions on what you should do from the leadership group. Does it take a while to get comfortable with your players so that they'll feel comfortable in sharing that with you? And in your experience, have they helped recruit guys for you?
That's a good question. I'd like to, I guess I'm going to give you my perspective. I'd like to think that, when we go into these meetings, I'm not looking for anybody to, I'm looking for how we can get better. I'm not going to put these players in a position to, an uncomfortable position. I'm going to ask them the questions about the team. What do they think? Their thoughts, and then take that information, and along with the information of the coaches. But then there's a whole world out there. There's 31 other teams. Our players know our team. They don't know the other 31 teams. That's where the pro scouts come in. That's where me working the phones to find out information about what other teams are thinking. Our leadership group only knows so much information. They know our team. They know what they think about our team, and that's what I'm trying to get out. Then I've got to go out and find information. I got to have our pro scouts give me their information on what we think about the other 31 teams. And then I got to get on the phone and talk to those other 31 managers and find out what they're thinking about their teams and how it might dovetail. It grows. So it's not like you can just sit with Connor or sit with Nick Lidstrom or sit with Zetterberg or sit with Yzerman. Those are my captains, and they're going to do this and do that. Well, they don't know what players are available. They don't know what the cost is. They're in that locker room. They're the captain of our team. They're the captain of our ship. So I want Connor to tell me what he thinks about our team and get his perspective. And then obviously Leon and Darnell and Nuge and the players that have been here that have stock in the team. They've been here for a while, and the younger players. It's Dave Tippett and I giving them the things that we think that they need to do over the course of the summer as they head into training camp to be more prepared to be better players. So I'm going to talk to the leadership and get their opinion on our team. But again, there's so many different levels out there. There's 31 other teams. They don't sit and watch all those 31 other teams on an every night basis. They're not pro scouts. We play every second night. So they know our team, and I want to get their perspective on our team.
Final question.
Does that answer your question?
Sorry. Final question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Min Darwell, CBC.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for taking this question. Obviously, this week has been disappointing for, the players, the organization, as well as the fan base. And there's been a lot of criticism levied against, players from the top all the way to the bottom of the lineup. Some of that criticism has turned into racism, particularly from Ethan Bear. I want to know what your thoughts are about that, and if you've had a chance to talk to Ethan, and also as an organization or as a league, whether it's time to look at fans who partake in this kind of abuse online, and whether they should be banned or not, kind of like what other leagues have done around the world.
Well, I mean, first off, it's totally unacceptable and it's disgusting. I just found out that this press conference started at 11, and I just yesterday I was in. We had our exit meeting at 1 o'clock, and I was in until 6 or 6:30. I was just meeting players, and then went home and came over this morning. Was making some calls, and then Tim Shipton, our PR person, and Jamie Cartmell told me about what happened with Ethan. So I just heard of it just before we started. Ethan's first off, it's totally uncalled for, totally unacceptable. It's disgusting. There's no place in our world for racism, and obviously there's many people taking the lead at lots of different levels at trying to get this out of our society, and Ethan's an unbelievable young man. He's a tremendous role model for all young athletes, and especially the Indigenous community. He's involved in he gives time to the community. He's popular in the locker room. 2 summers ago, he spent his entire summer here in Edmonton in the gym, every morning with our strength coach, focused, determined, committed to get himself in the best shape that he could as an athlete, to come into training camp, to compete for a spot with our hockey team, and he made our hockey team. So he's an incredible role model. And I have not talked to him. I'm going to call him. I'll call him here after we're done. I feel I use the word sick. I feel sick for him. I feel disappointed for him that he would get this kind of abuse. It's unacceptable, and obviously we all have to continue to work at every level to continue to. I think we've made strides, but there's a long way to go to create a world where everybody feels safe, and they don't get this kind of racism and abuse. So I feel sick for Ethan. Met with him yesterday for 45 minutes. Tip and I, was our exit interviews. He's an incredible young man, and I'm going to reach out, tell him that I personally and our organization totally support him, and do whatever we can to help. Obviously, I'm going to talk to the people. I'm 65 years old. I don't live in that social media world, so I want to talk to our PR people, Jamie Cartmell, Tim Shipton, and see what we can do as an organization to try to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future.